If you'd like to see more of our videos, hit the subscribe button to stay on top of the market news. Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Razak at CMtrading. Today's July 15th, 2020, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, we're watching the Dow Jones taking center stage as it breaks out to the upside after trading in a range for a long time, for over a month and a half. But first, let's take a look at the economic events of the day. So looking at today's economic events of the day, just one event scheduled at 4 o'clock South African time. It's the Bank of Canada interest rate decision number coming out at 4 o'clock South African time. So you do want to know it's coming out. Now looking at the currencies, the dollar retraces across the board as the Dow Jones breaks to the upside. Following that, NASDAQ also bounces. Looking at the commodities, gold pretty much unchanged while oil bounces above $40 a barrel and steady there. And lastly, looking at the stocks, now it's JP Morgan that is actually taking us on the upside, and it beats estimates. But the question still looms, will there be some losses tied into some of their loans that they have out that are floating in the market right now? So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So we're going to first start out with the Euro USD, and this is something we've been watching for a while. Okay, altogether the Euro USD has been on an upwards momentum. As you can see here, we capitulated yesterday to 114.19. Now this is the first time we hit this type of area for quite some time. If we look back to before of when we were trading in the pandemic-ish area, this is how far we've gotten there since then. Okay, so we're really chugging along closer to that upper limit of 114 when the dollar got much weaker versus the euro, and hitting that 114-ish level. And we're really just shying away from that just momentarily. Now, as the Dow Jones gets stronger, the dollar gets weaker. Okay, so that's what's been happening. Now, looking at the GBP USD, a little bit of a bounce here, but it's trading within a range. Okay, so if you're more in tune to trading ranges, this was really a high probability trade to actually buy it down here at this 125-ish level. Okay, as it garnered up above this moving average. Now, altogether, we're looking at the currencies trading in still a very tight range. Okay, now I just want to highlight the fact that the USDs it is trickling down, getting stronger versus the dollar as well. Now we do have a support level at this 1645-ish level. So if we do hug it and do break it, okay, we could see that further correction on the downside, which would be very, very good for the South African community and the economy. Now looking at the USD CAD with this number coming out later today, as you can see, we've been in a tight range. Okay, nothing really doing much here, and this is really because oil is trading in a tight range, right? I mean, the Canadian economy is very dependent on the price of oil, and that is very indicative of this trading range right there. So we're really smack in the middle between our upper and lower limit. So nothing to really write home about. Okay, I'd like to see some sort of breakout in either direction for us to have any future direction in this. Now jumping into oil right before we look at gold, since we did jump into that, you can see that we're pretty much flatlined here at 40.42. Okay, no big waves up, no big waves down. So we're pretty much trading at par, which is, for the price of oil, very important because it needs to be stable. Okay, now looking at the price of gold, trading at that 1808, still at a tight level. Okay, it dipped briefly to 1792 yesterday and then rallying above it. Okay, 1800 is your support level. Okay, psychologically and technically, so it is an important level for us to hit. Okay, and for us to stay above it. Okay, so every time we do challenge it, I do expect us to bounce above it. Okay, so just keep that in mind, and we're still bullish on it. Okay, so ultimately, this will, challenge this upper 1800-ish, 1811-ish level, let's be more precise, into the upside and challenge it as we continue. Like looking at the Dow Jones, all right? Now, we're first looking at a daily chart, okay? So you're not going to see it as extensively, but you could see right here, we had this decent move upwards yesterday, and we're gapping up, which shows some strength. Actually, after hours, Moderna actually came out with their first trial for the vaccine for this COVID-19 and showing very promising. Okay, and you see that gap up as we broke above it. Now this is a sustaining candle, okay, because yesterday we said perhaps it'll be a wick, and it's not. It's a sustaining candle, and it's got some momentum on the upside. What I'd like to see is continued momentum today. So let's just jump into a 4-hour chart just to give us perspective here. This is what I'm talking about. We broke above this 26,500, gapping above that. I would expect a fill in the gap and then go. Okay, so we could retrace another 250 points here before we take it up even higher. All right, so something to consider going into today's trading as this does continue to make the correction. Now, looking at JP Morgan first, but since that came out with some news yesterday, if we look at a 1 hour chart, it did rally. Okay, it rallied about 6 points. Okay, but it's still trading within the range. Now, there's a lot of things looming in the back of this. Okay, the bank has a lot of loans outstanding, and we won't see the actual defaults for another few months, okay? If there will be defaults and there will be a recession or skirting with a recession, okay? Even though that some of the FANG stocks have been hitting all-time highs, the banks is where it's at, okay? The banks are really the heart of the economy. They're what make the blood in the system circulate, and that's really the most important part. So the banks, you got to keep an eye on the banks, and so we're going to continue watching JP Morgan very carefully. Now, looking at the fan stocks, Apple had a little bit of a resurge yesterday, okay, going up to 388 from 378, a nice $10 move. Amazon also bouncing yesterday. Looking at a 30-minute chart, you could see that a little bit stronger. Okay, but this is normal, okay? The reason that it nosedive is because people are taking their profits. I mean, come on. This doubled in price since March 18th. We've mentioned that a couple of times. I do expect some further bouncing today. Now, looking at Microsoft, okay, same story as well, as it capitulated down to 204, which was a beautiful previous resistance subsequent support level. Okay, you can't write that better than that. Okay, so that's really a great move right there. We will hit a little bit of a resistance-ish area around this 210-ish level, so just expect it. Now, lastly, looking at the NASDAQ, although we should have done the index before, let's just look at it. With we are looking at a retracement here. Okay, but didn't retrace back to our breakout level, which shows some continued strength. Okay, so I do expect the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ to continue trading upwards today. Okay, I'm a little biased now because of, a couple of things, but we may correct ourselves. We may fill in the gap initially and then take it higher. So just be aware of that as today's unfolds. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.